And good morning. Welcome into Sports Talk at the Stadium, brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council. We're at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. For those of you still up with us this morning, Clemson, a 41-10 winner tonight over Georgia Tech in the season opener, the ACC opener for both teams. And the Tigers covered the spread. I didn't think they would. Wasn't sure about the offense. For much of the game, about 35 minutes through, I thought I had nailed that prediction. But then the Tigers caught fire after a big play by DJ Uyangalele, and they went on to pull away, dominate the final 25 minutes of this ball game. It was a 14-10 game until Uyangalele made a Superman-like play in which he shrugged off a couple of would-be tacklers, avoided a sack, lateral the ball to Will Shipley, who ran for a first down. The Tigers went on to score then and put the game away from that point, moving away and scoring 27 unanswered points to win this. They had a couple of block punts. They didn't scoop and score like the Gamecocks did, but they did recover those punts and go in and score on those drives. Now, Uyangalele had kind of an uneven night. He started off kind of shaky. He had some errant throws. He had a fumble, things like that, things we saw last year that Clemson fans certainly hope that they would not show up again this year. But, he kind of settled down. And I think that big play that I talked about where he avoided the sack and made the lateral to Shipley, I think that sort of settled his nerves. And then he really played good football the rest of the way. He hit a couple of big balls. There weren't a lot of big plays in the game by either team as far as long runs or long passes for that matter. But he did hit a couple of nice passes, one to Bo Collins. And he hit his intermediate passes pretty well. He was pretty sharp in the passing game, had some drops out there, and that's something that they'll have to work on. Dabo Swinney made it clear tonight that he's not worried about the running game. You look at the yardage in the running game, it wasn't great tonight, but they had a lot of short fields, and that has something to do with that. He's not worried about the running game. His primary concern is about that passing game and improving that passing game over last year, and that's something they'll continue to focus on. And he feels like with the receivers that they have around Uyangalele is going to make him better. And he again cited his receivers, in particular, of course, the veterans, but then he also, of course, was very impressed by Antonio Williams, who made his debut. And, man, he looks good. And Will Taylor's now healthy, and he can help. And he loves Brandon Spector. And he also said, this was kind of shocking, that Adam Randall could have played tonight if needed. They didn't need him. Of course, he's coming off an ACL from April. And here it is, just the first part of September. We're talking 5 months getting over an ACL. He's been working with the scout team, and apparently he's running full speed and doing everything you could ask of him, and he's been cleared by the doctor. So I got a feeling you're going to see Adam Randall in the rotation at receiver sooner than later. Tight ends did okay. Davis Allen had a nice catch, but he also had a drop that Swinney said he's got to make that catch along the goal line. Running backs ran pretty hard. Again, nobody had a spectacular night on the ground in terms of the numbers, but a number of different running backs got in the ball games. And gosh, how many? Like 10 or 11 receivers caught passes tonight. The true freshman at right tackle, Blake Miller, did okay. He had moments where he got beat, as you might expect. Another thing that Swinney was really concerned about that has to be addressed, communication on the offense. He said too many times they just miscommunicated, missed the call, didn't carry out the call properly, things like that. That's got to be worked out before the next game against Furman on Saturday. Defensively, well, what can you say? They held Georgia Tech to 280 some odd yards on 66 plays, about 3.6 yards per snap. They were their normal dominant self. KJ Henry had a really good game. He had 6 tackles. He had 2.5 tackles for loss. He had a sack. He forced a fumble. I thought that Barrett Carter, Trenton Simpson played extremely well. You can really see the speed at linebacker the Tigers have now, the way those guys run. Look very, very good. And of course, Makuba had an interception on the very first play of the game. And I thought Trotter did a nice job. He's such he looks like the prototypical middle linebacker in there wearing number 54, whereas you've got Carter wearing 0 and Simpson wearing 22, and they look like speed merchants running around. They just play all over the field. Secondary was good for the most part. Of course, special teams, the 2 block punts, that was big. And Potter hit a couple of field goals. short field goals, but he hit them both. And Swanson put it very well for the first time. 44 yards he averaged on about 6 kicks. So a lot of good things there to build on. And of course, as Sweeney said afterwards, enough mistakes to show the team that they have got some things, of course, to focus on and work on in the days ahead. I don't believe anybody got hurt tonight. I don't recall one time the trainers having to come out on the field for anything. So that was certainly good news. And by the way, this place, if you've never been to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium here in Atlanta, the home of the Falcons, it is spectacular. My first time inside here, and it's just a gorgeous building with all the bells and whistles you would expect from a building that costs, whatever this costs, over $1 billion or something like that. It's spectacular. So the Tigers took care of their business, is what they wanted to do tonight. Take care of their business. They're 1-0. They got things to improve on offensively. Some things maybe defensively. They weren't perfect on defense, but they were pretty darn close. And the special teams, of course, really stood out tonight. They've got to feel very good about that. So now they have a short week. Like Sweeney said, today's like their Sunday because they got a game coming up on Saturday against Furman at Death Valley. Now, Sweeney will not have his regularly scheduled press conference tomorrow. He will have a session with the media, a Zoom session with the media after practice tomorrow night. That'll be about 8 o'clock. So we'll get something up on our website tomorrow night about that. And then the rest of the week will be following the Tigers and what they do and getting ready for Furman. And you, of course, can hear from Sweeney and from a couple of players on our website, sportstalksc.com. And tomorrow night, back in the studios in Columbia, Pat Daniel, Chris Bergen will join me, talk with you about this win and looking ahead to the football action this week around the state. So Clemson wins it once again, 41-10. The attendance, 47,712. It was a sellout. Keep in mind, they didn't sell the upper deck. This was something Georgia Tech wanted. This was Georgia Tech's home game. They did not want to sell the upper deck because they couldn't sell it for their fan base, but they knew Clemson would buy the upper deck. You'd have 40,000 Clemson fans in here. It looked pretty much a split crowd, to be honest with you. 47,000 looked like there were 20,000 plus Clemson fans in here. So pretty much a split crowd, I would say, between the two. And a good start on the season for Clemson. Again, thanks to the South Carolina Beef Council, our sponsor of our Sports Talk at the Stadium this football season, and our game coverage on our website, sportstalksc.com. And thanks for checking us out this morning. See you later on tonight back in Columbia on Sports Talk.